Hi, I'm Berks, your guide and captain on today's Star Citizen tutorial. Alright, it's not that serious, but Star Citizen is a complicated and confusing game to jump into, or even knowing what to buy on the website that gets you into the game. And this patch is the biggest yet, so I broken up this video into easy to follow segments, along with this bar that's going to let you know how much time is left in the section and when you're at a good pausing point. Feel free to bookmark this and come back anytime you need some help. So first off, what is Star Citizen? Well, it is a massive, incredibly immersive, and nearly seamless sci-fi MMO. And it's not just spaceships. There is a considerable amount of content on the ground and huge locations to explore. It's first person and there's bounty hunting, mining, trading, box delivery, racing, exploring, salvaging, global events, smuggling, piracy, PvP, and an almost limitless high detail universe with just one initial loading screen. While I know this may sound too good to be true, it kind of is. The game still has a ton of issues, but it is getting better each update. So if all that sounds good to you and you're willing to spend $45 on the most wild and sometimes messy game I've ever played, or maybe a returning player learning the new features of this update, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Next up, making an account. Follow the link in my description for a referral plus an extra $5K when you start out. After your sign up is complete, you'll head to the pledge store, and this is where the real gameplay is. Look at those sweet JPEGs. Just kidding. I'm a huge advocate for buying ships in-game, and it's totally doable. But keep in mind, until Star Citizen 1.0, which is going to be a while, every 6 months or so, in-game progressions are reset. Real money purchases are not reset. But I play every patch with just a starter account in one ship. And in my opinion, it is way more fun and rewarding to have that progression in-game. That being said, if you want to pay for my dream game, Godspeed Citizen, you're looking specifically for game packages. Personally, I love the Avenger Titan. It's one of the fastest ships in the game and faster than all the popular pirate ships, if you catch what I'm saying. It's decent at combat, has a bed you can log out anywhere, internal storage, and 8 SCU of cargo. If you want something cheaper, you can follow this tutorial easily with the Aurora MR or the Mustang Alpha, which are both great starters too. Last thing before you buy, make sure your PC at least hits the minimum requirements here. I'd recommend checking out the telemetry page in the description to get an idea of what FPS you'll get in-game. After your purchase is complete, head to the Play Now in the top right. Go ahead and click download and install the launcher. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you to sign in and then download the current patch, which is 3.23 live. It should be about 80 gigabytes in total, and now would be a great time to pause to let it finish. Go ahead and launch the game, and the first thing you're going to do is go over to options. Let's take a quick look at our graphic settings. Personally, I like doing native high resolution, but depending on your build, you might want to try out the new DLSS features, or FSR if you're on AMD graphics. Aside from that, I like to have my clouds down to medium or off. This really helps with performance. My FOV is set to 100, VSync off unless you're streaming because it helps with tearing. Film grain, motion blur, and chromatic aberration are off completely. And we'll go over more settings later on in the video, but for now, head back to the menu. There are two options: Arena Commander, which is an amazing way to get good and get experience without losing your gear in the PU. The PU, or Persistent Universe, is the main part of the game, and this is where all your long-term progression happens. The first time you jump in, it will ask you to build a character. This is my fast attempt at myself. You can take a lot of time building these out if you want. After you're done, click review and make sure you name and save your design so you can use your characters in future patches. Next, let's pick our landing zone, and you have 4 locations: Lorville, Orison, Area 18, and New Babbage. But New Babbage has amazing views, good missions, multiple FPS and armor shops, and maybe the best ship upgrade shops in the game. It's also going to let you know that you can do a tutorial. If you've already said yes, you need to complete it, and you can meet me at this timestamp here. I'm going to be more thorough and teach you how to make consistent money for buying anything you want in-game. Now let's dive in. After you're done loading in, the primary interaction key in Star Citizen is F. You're going to use this to interact with a lot of stuff. If you tap objects, that's going to be the most obvious action, like pick up, open, close, enter. But if you hold F, you'll get additional options if there's any available. Once you're done looking around, tap F on the door to open it, and here is New Babbage. Walking around might feel a little slow at first, but if you just scroll wheel up, you'll move a lot faster. If you hold shift, you'll run even faster than that. In game, you're going to have tooltips on by default, and these are on your bottom right. These can be extremely helpful, and they'll change on the situation that you're in. There's also signs in Star Citizen, which can be really helpful. If you're having trouble reading them, you can hold F and scroll wheel in to do a small digital zoom. Global chat is also accessible by pressing enter, and you can toggle it on or off by pressing F12. Once you feel comfortable with the movement, head to the elevator and hold F on the elevator panel, then select lobby. We have a couple of destinations here. Both of these staircases on the left and right go down to the tram. In the middle is the hospital, which as a new player, you'll get very familiar with. And on the right, we have a convenience store. So let's talk about shops, gear, and inventory. Ah, yes, Kelto. Everyone loves Stanton's best convenience store where you can get a drink, maybe a snack, a helmet, and a fully automatic freedom spewing 50-round SMG. But seriously, most of these shops have everything you need. This is a smaller one, so its options are a little bit more limited, but that's okay because you don't start off with a lot of money. And even worse, when you die, your gear is up for grabs by anyone, including you if you can get back to it. That's why in the first mission I'm showing you today, I'll teach you how to get your own gear so you don't have to buy your own. Just to show you how the shop and inventory works, I'll be buying 2 med pins for healing, 2 oxy pins to refill suit oxygen in case we're running low, a chest piece since it's required to wear a backpack. You don't have to buy one now, but the multi-tool can be extremely helpful as well, and it takes a few different attachments. For example, the True Hold tractor beam attachment. It can move you around in EVA, pick up items, and even help you salvage weapons off the enemies you take down. Last thing we'll get is a cruise, since food and water is a thing, and cruise happens to take care of both of those things. It's like a space smoothie. Now you only have to eat and drink every few hours, so it's not a big deal. But you'd be surprised, food and water will sneak up on you after a long play session. Now that we have our stuff, if you tap I, you can open up your main inventory. On the right is your local stash. On the left is your inventory when you're wearing items that have storage. You can either drag items onto your character, right-click and then equip, or double-click any item as long as you have space for it. If you left-shift and then left-click any item, it will move between your personal and your local inventory. If later on you're getting thirsty or hungry, you can right-click your drink to carry it, but you have to take your helmet off first. The easiest way to do that is to hit left alt and H at the same time. This will store your helmet invisibly on your belt. Then click mouse 1 to eat or drink, or if you hold mouse 1, it will use the entire item. By this point, you probably noticed that you have a minimap. And when your helmet is off, you have the contact minimap, which may sound a little bit unnecessary, but it's actually a great way to tell if your helmet is still off. So go ahead and press left alt and H to get it back on. Also, let's talk about the symbols above the minimap. The one on the right being Armistice Zone, meaning it is a no-fire zone. On the left, we have monitored space. What this means is that if you commit a crime, attack another player, or do a criminal mission, that means the space government knows exactly what you did and they are going to give you a crime stat. And even go to space jail, which we're going to talk about later on. Next, let's head down the stairs to the spaceport for your first flight. While we're on the tram, let's talk about the pit menu, or the personal inner thought. It's a menu in the game that allows you to get to the actions you may not know the keybind for, and it will even tell you the correct keybind for it, such as the visor wipe here. Once you've arrived at the spaceport, head off the tram and you're going to have to take an elevator up to customs. Then you have finally arrived at New Babbage Spaceport. If you're in the mood for a photo op, F4 is the third person key, and if you hold Z and use your mouse, you can pivot your camera around. Next, let's head up the stairs and to the ship terminals. But first, behind us, we have the rentals. You can rent ships for days at a time, but usually comes at a high price, and it's not really worth it. Your money is way more well spent on buying a ship in-game. Now that we're done with that, let's head to the ship console, or better known as the ASOP. We're using the Avenger Titan, and you can see the name here, the status, the type of ship, the crew, and we have the Deliver button. All your ships just at the start of the wipe are in this limbo that you need to deliver. Once you've delivered a ship for the first time, it is at that location. And if you want it somewhere else, you're going to have to physically move it or reclaim it the place you want. Let's go ahead and call the Titan out, and that's going to be Hangar 2. After taking the elevator, you can get in the Titan by walking up to the back ramp and tapping F. Some ships are going to have cockpit ladders instead, which you'll access by walking up and just tapping F on the ladder. Something that is awesome about the Titan is it has internal inventory. Keep in mind, if your ship gets destroyed and you do have loot on it, it will generate a box with all that loot inside. The Titan also has a bed, and this is a logout point in space or landed on moons or planets, as long as you're not in combat or too close to a location. Heading up to the cockpit, we have the pilot seat. Tap F to sit down. Now, if you hold F, you can see that there is a bunch of buttons to click here, including ejection. Be careful, it does work. What you're looking for on every ship is flight ready. Or if you hold the right Alt and R, it will flight ready the ship. Next, we need to get this door open in front of us. Press left Alt and in, and that will request air traffic control. Remember this because you're going to use this button a lot. And it's the same button you'll use to call for landing later. A few settings I'd recommend changing: turning your VJoy range down to 8/8. This makes it way easier to aim on a mouse. Also, turning your thrust vector indicator or your TVI on always is very helpful. This is your TVI. If you're heading full speed towards a station and it's on the station, you're gonna hit it and you will die. If it's off the station, you're good. If you're not big on the camera shake effects, scroll down all the way to the bottom and turn global camera shake off, G-force induced head movement, and camera movement on boost. Also in audio settings, there's an audio camera shake. These effects are cool, but I personally like a visually cleaner experience. If you're like me, then you can switch them off. Now that your hangar is open, go ahead and gently press spacebar to strafe up. You're going to use left control to strafe down, A to strafe to the left, and D to strafe to the right. S will move you backwards, and W will move you forward. It's Q to roll to the left, and E to roll to the right. Move your mouse around to pitch and yaw. This is your VJoy, and the more you pull it in one direction, the faster your ship will turn. Hold Shift to use Afterburner and X to space brake. And finally, toggle your landing gear within. Next, let's talk about your HUD. Top left, and most important, there are two modes of flight now. Let's call one Travel Mode and the other one Combat Mode. Combat Mode is SCM or Standard Combat Maneuvering. Nav Mode is Navigation Mode. The first mode, SCM, this is a mode where you can shoot your guns, missiles, use decoys to avoid missiles, and chaff to cloud sensors in the area. But even in space, you're limited to about 225 without boost, 500 with boost. In navigation mode, you can freely travel up to 1,425 meters a second in this ship. However, even in navigation mode, atmosphere is going to naturally slow you down. The closer you are to space, the faster you can go. But nav mode, your shields will go down. You cannot use your weapons, missiles, or countermeasures. So remember, hold B to switch these because you'll need them if you ever want to get out of combat. Next, let's talk about middle left because that is important for combat as well. You have your speed limiter and you can scroll up and down to limit the amount of speed that you can go in nav mode or combat mode. If you're in combat, make sure you're scrolling this all the way up because nothing feels worse than needing to run away and being blown up because your speed was set too low. The middle left, you're going to have your boost capacitor. Next, bottom left, we have our landing gear. You can go ahead and toggle this within. This is important because putting your landing gear down will slow you down to a crawl. Then we have enhanced stick precision. This should always stay on. It's going to help you aim. Next, toggle coupled or decoupled with C. Decoupled just means you're going to keep the momentum. And it's for experienced pilots since it's super easy to drift into something when it's on. Next, we have VTOL or vertical takeoff and landing. You can toggle this with K. Not every ship has this, but on the ships that does, you can get some serious upward thrust when it's enabled. And finally, on the top left, we have our signature or your stealth. The higher this is, the more detectable you are. Boosting, shooting, charging your QT will all affect this. And for reference, around 3K is very stealthy. 20K is pretty high. In the middle of your screen, you have the height ladder. Basically, if you want to get to space fastest, point this up at 90 degrees and fly forward. On the bottom right, you have your altitude readout, which you'll need to get to about 11K before you can make your first quantum jump. Then hydrogen fuel for normal flying, quantum fuel for big jumps between planets. A targeting mode we can talk about later. These are your decoys and your chaff, which are your countermeasures to dodge missiles, and we'll get to these in a little bit. And staggered fire, but you don't need this for now. Finally, we have auto target. I'm going to suggest you turn this off by holding T. Personally, for space combat, I like staying on my target even if they go off my screen. With auto target on, it's going to target whatever ship is in front of you and not who you last targeted. Last, we have your ammo. Lasers will continue to recharge. Ballistics you'll have to refill if you run out. With that out of the way, let's do your first quantum jump. Like I said, you'll need to get to 11,000 meters. On the way, go ahead and switch to nav mode. Do this by holding B. Once you're in nav mode, it will automatically spool your quantum. You can press middle click to cycle through having markers, no markers, and even going into scanning mode. If you hit tab in or out of scanning mode, it will send out a scanning ping. Not only that, but it's also helpful for seeing the ground at night, flying through asteroid fields, or basically anywhere that has low visibility. If you press left alt and C while you're in coupled mode, you'll enter cruise control, and this works just like a car. Whatever your speed is at when you press left alt and C, it's going to do its best to maintain it. Just increase or decrease your speed to adjust it. But when you're done, make sure you turn it off, or you will crash, you will die, and you will be sad. Now that we're way above jumping altitude, we can see Tressler in space on the right. Go ahead and press middle click to show your QT markers again. Then hold mouse 1 to initiate the jump. But what if our destination is too far away? Well, you can use F2 to open the star map. You can use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out, and double click on points of interest to highlight them. From there, you can set route on the left. If you want to use the search bar instead, it's very helpful, and it even shows your closest locations first. So let's click on Tressler. If you decide you want to go somewhere else or break away from your route, all you got to do is hit F2 and then on the right hit cancel route. But for now, hold mouse 1 and go ahead and jump. On approach, use the TVI or thrust vector indicator to avoid the station. When you're close enough to the station, you can either enter combat mode, slowing you down significantly, or scroll wheel down to make sure you're not going too fast. Press left alt and in to call for landing, and head to the hangar it's assigned you. When you get close, press in to get your landing gear down. Once landed, it's good practice to press I to turn your engines off and keep your shields on, especially when you're landing anywhere that is not an armistice zone. Go ahead and hold Y to get out of your seat. Awesome, you made it to Port Tressler. Here you can find the ship consoles, small food shops, the hubs where you spawn in when you log in, the transit elevators that will take you to the Galleria, which has a bunch of shops for FPS gear, ship parts, and finally the cargo deck, which has a ton of gear and ship rentals. Last but not least, we have the clinic. We're going to go ahead and set our spawn here. That way, whenever you do go down and have to respawn, you don't have to ride a tram and get out of a big spaceport and take 20 minutes to get going again. You're looking for Olympus insurance consoles. Go ahead and click Transfer Imprint. The clinic also has helpful medical supplies. The Paramed gun is probably the best of all these tools. So let's talk about respawning, healing, and ejection. Our buddy here is going to help us show off the medical system. So if you're in combat and you're in space and there's no chance of survival, there isn't parachutes yet, but you can hold F and hit the ejection button, or right alt and Y. If you're out doing your mission and your ship happens to explode, don't worry, it is not gone forever. After you respawn or make it back to the station, head to the ship console and you'll be able to reclaim here. There's also an option to expedite, but we're broke, so we're not going to do that. Floating in 0G like this, commonly known as EVA or extravehicular activity, the controls are exactly the same as FPS. Q and E is your roll. Space is ascend, left control is descend. The cool thing about the new EVA is it's fully decoupled, meaning you can kind of Superman fly and still have full control of your aiming for your FPS weapons or whatever tool you're using. Next, let's test healing. If you've taken too much damage, you go into a down state. You can use a med pin on someone else by tapping forward to pull it out, and then right-clicking when you're standing or crouching right above them. When you're down, you cannot heal yourself, but you can hold M to call for a med beacon. Ah yes, the final boss of video games, making friends. Jokes aside, to use the med gun on someone else, go ahead and right-click and then hold mouse 1. If they have a tier 3, lowest, tier 2, medium, or tier 1, highest level injury, you can press middle mouse while holding F, and then click on the slider to move it from basic to advanced mode. Click auto on the bottom right, and this will give you the exact medicine they need for 5 minutes. You can do the exact thing on yourself by pressing B. Just make sure when you're done, you switch it back to the basic mode. A good rule of thumb is tier 3s are not a big deal, but tiers 2 and tier 1, it's time to head to the clinic. Just keep in mind of your medicine level. If it gets too high, you'll pass out. Once you're landed back at any station with a clinic, the consoles at the front of the clinic is where you get your room. Lay down on the bed and you can treat your injuries by pressing the treatment tab here. Next, we're talking about the MobiGlass, and this is your cell phone in Star Citizen. Tap F1 to open it up and get to your home page. On home, you can see current missions, invites, your crime stat level, and who runs the system you're in. In this case, it's the space government or the United Earth Empire. Next, we have your ship info, including ammo, fuel, and distance from your ship. Bottom middle is going to be your surrounding environment stats, including gravity, if it's safe to breathe without a helmet, pressure, temperature, and even radiation. On the right, we have your health status. This is a more dedicated version of all your health info, and will give you current information on your medicine and injuries. After that, comms is one of the most important apps in the MobiGlass. Comms, you can see your channels, including global and party chat. Under friends, you can call for landing, and also to call for pickup if you're purchasing cargo from a station. Under that, you have a list of your friends who are currently on and offline. To add friends, you'll have to go to the main menu and search their name in the top right. On the right, you have a member list of whatever channel you're a part of. In this case, it's the server since I have global selected. You can right-click their name and add them here as well, invite to party, channel, and even mute. Under manager, you can change your global chat to completely off, change chat color, and even mic settings. The next app is contracts. Contracts simply let you make money in Star Citizen. Most of them are pretty simple, and some of them should be completely avoided. Salvage is a very chill and easy way to earn money if you have a vulture or you've earned one in-game. You could also ask in global if anyone is looking for an extra hand on a reclaimer. Most salvages are very friendly and very happy to show people the ropes, and a lot of them will not be afraid to share the wealth with you. Investigation can be cool, but might send you to confusing caves, so keep that in mind. Search and delivery missions, in my opinion, are a bit too finicky to recommend. Bounty hunting is PvE, except for your suspect apprehension. This will take you on a questline to do your PvP bounty certificate. Mercenary is mostly FPS missions with sometimes flight missions. Security contract evaluation is the mission we're going to be doing first. We'll fly in, shoot some baddies, get some loot, and get paid to do it. Research is a long fetch quest that essentially has you drop a box off on the other side of the system. It's okay money if you have a fast quantum drive like a Cutlass with an XL1. But in a starter ship, I wouldn't recommend. Priority is event missions like Xenothreat, which if you're playing in May is currently going on right now. Xenothreat is an event where basically they're mad at the space government because the aliens are stealing our jobs and they won't stand for it. Jokes aside, cool locations to look out for in the mission description is distribution centers. They are huge locations that should be really fun content for you to check out. Keep in mind, some of them have turrets, so if you go there without a mission, either land far away and walk in, or you might get shot down. Racing is where you can get paid to complete tracks around Stanton, but the catch is you have to get really good times to get paid, and it's not really that much. Verified missions are legal missions approved by the space government. Unverified means you're at risk of getting crime stat or going to space jail, so steer clear of them unless you want to get a bounty and have player bounty hunters after you. Offers was the mission list we just went over. Accepted is accepted missions where you can abandon, share, track, or untrack. History is failed or completed missions, and beacons are where you can pay players to do stuff for you. Next, we have the map or the star map. You can access this at any time by pressing F2. The map, when you first open it up, is a zoomed-in version of the mini-map. To get to the full-size map, you'll have to zoom out with scroll wheel. And now you can see we're around Microtech. You can hold mouse 1 to spin around and mouse 2 to pan, and press 4 to gradually step out until you have the entire map view. If you double-click a location, you can focus on it. Also, don't forget about the search bar, which is really helpful, and even sorts things by your location. It will take a while to memorize locations, but once you do, this will get you anywhere in the game. When you double-click or hover over a location, if you're in a ship and you tap R, you can set route from here. On the right, you'll get info like how many stops there are, how long of a jump it is, and how much fuel you're using. If you change your mind and you want to jump anywhere else freely, you can cancel your route on the right. Journal is where lore and the system laws live that you're currently in, but the journal goes mostly untouched. Assets is where a list of all your items in Star Citizen are. For example, if we click Microtech and then Tressler, we can see the items that we just stored here. Reputation we'll talk about in detail after our first mission, but this is where you can check out how long till your next mission upgrade, reputation bonuses, and if an organization hates or loves you, which can affect your available missions. If an org hates you, they will not give you missions. Wallet is where you can send money to anyone in the game for a small fee, and landing is where you can repair and refuel after a mission. Just click on the services you want and wait for the messages to disappear. Vehicle Loadout Manager is where you applied your ship upgrades. This deserves its own video, but the general rule of thumb is if you're going to go buy gear, military grade A for everything except your quantum drive. Size 1, you want the Atlas from Hurl 5. Size 2, you want the XL1 from Tressler. And the size 3, you want a TS2, which you can get at Orison or Crew L5. Alright, another section done. Now it's time to learn how to make money and get gear. We're going to start with our security contract evaluation. But keep in mind each planet has its own evaluation under Mercenary. So we need to head to the marked data center on Microtech. Once we get there, we need to clear out all the enemies without harming the security that's already there. And don't worry, friendlies will have a green marker above them. Speaking of which, you can accept call to arms every time you log in under Mercenary. This gets you an extra 500 aUEC for every bad guy you take down. But when you accept it, it's going to automatically track it. Make sure you're tracking your right mission and not call to arms so you see your markers. Now let's head out to Hangar 3. Once you get in your seat, tap F2 to open your map. And this one's in a bit of an awkward spot, but if you double click and set route on the yellow mission marker, it will take us straight to the place that we're supposed to go. Left alt plus in is going to call for the hangar to open, and once you're out, hold B to enter travel mode. The good news is your route is already set, so just look at the mission location, complete the calibration, and hold mouse 1. Some FPS missions are going to have hostile turrets. So on your way in, if you see trespassing in front of you or this icon on your minimap, that means that you need to be careful. If you get within about 3 kilometers of the base and it's hostile, you will be shot down if you're not careful. Fly low and land behind cover, or drive a ground vehicle to avoid them. If you're not trespassing, that means it's a friendly bunker and you're fine to land. If you're flying in at nighttime, make sure to be pressing tab so you can see the outline of the ground and the horizon. Once landed, it's good practice to turn off your engines with I and keep your power and shields on. Just remember to turn your engines back on when you get in your pilot seat. Before we go in, here's a refresher. Tap 4 to bring out your first med pin. Hold 4 to select which one you want. This is helpful if you have med pins, oxy pins, maybe a hacking chip, and you want to select the right one. Tap 5 to bring up your med gun. Press B to switch to self-healing. Press 1 and 2 for primary weapons, or 3 for sidearms. Hold any of those and it will bring up your selection menu. With that out of the way, let's head downstairs. There are markers for enemies, but only when the last 3 enemies are left. Friendly NPCs will always have markers on them. If you tap F on a weapon, it will pick it up quickly. Tapping F on an NPC or a lootable container will bring up the new looting menu. You can use mouse 1 to swap or grab items quickly. You can also drag them to empty spaces, or shift and mouse 1 will put it straight into your backpack or free inventory. Keep in mind if you press mouse 1 on an item and you don't have a free slot for it, it will swap it with the other item instead. If you hit tab, you can swap to the armor section. The nice thing about this is if you swap armor here, the game will do its best to keep all of your items as well. So grabbing their legs, their chest, backpack is still going to mainly pull all of your items together. There's also ammo repulling. If you tap left alt and then 1 with any weapon out, it will repull all the ammo and any empty spaces on your belt will be filled up by magazines that are in your backpack. The more ammo and magazines you have to go through, the longer this process will take. But it's relatively quick and you can actually move while doing it. And with the last enemy down, it's mission complete. It will give you a timer to leave the area. If you don't get out in time, you will be shot and probably sent to prison. That's some hero treatment, huh? So look around for the loot boxes like this for snipers, LMGs, grenade launchers, and the god tier railgun. These are the only weapons you cannot buy in the shop, but you can buy ammo for any weapon at 99% of the ammo shops. So the main thing is to loot the weapons here. These boxes are good for medical, and these ones are good for multi-tools and hacking chips. Let's head back to Tressler by searching for it on the map. Tap R to set route and head back. And your first mission is now complete. Make sure after every mission you're doing a refuel, repair, and rearm when you get back to the station. Next up, we have our second to last section and your first flight combat. Now, before we jump in, I would highly recommend jumping into Arena Commander, and even doing a single round of Pirate Swarm is going to get you in a much better spot. Feel free to watch this entire section of combat controls and then decide if you want to get practice first or get experience in-game. The mission we're going to be doing is the Tracker Training Permit. Sadly, this thing sometimes takes you across the system to complete, but it's the first step to be making good money with ship combat. So let's head back to the hangar and set our route. For this mission, it's taking us to a moon around Hurston. You can either set to Hurston or directly to the mission location. Call for takeoff and switch to nav mode. This is the biggest jump you've done so far, so if you don't have enough fuel, make sure you're stopping halfway to grab some from a station. If you're on your way to Crusader, the best stop would be Cruel 5. You should have enough to get from Microtech to Hurston. But if you're on your way to ArcCorp, stop at Hurston and go to Everest Harbor. Now let's talk about capacitors. Capacitors, put simply, just give you extra recharge in whatever you put it into. You can use these by pressing F5, F6, F7, and 8. Weapons get 30% more shots, shields get 30% more resistance, and engines get you 30% more afterburner. All three will recover faster when you have more power in each one. If you're just starting out, I would recommend keeping this default. But for easier keyboard access, I would highly recommend in Options, head to Keybinds. Then bottom left, click Advanced Control Customization. Then find the drop-down Power Triangle assignment. You want to set on all three: increase, tap, set to max, hold. 1 for weapons, 2 for engines, and 3 for shields. And just leave your reset as F8. You could change it to 4, but keep in mind you'll have to unbind cycle attackers under flight targeting. 1, 2, and 3 are default used for the pin target system, which can be helpful in multi-crew situations, but I promise they are less valuable than capacitors. Next, we have gimbals. If you tap G, you can cycle through the gimbal mode. The first is fixed/lock. Your ship shoots where your crosshair is, straight forward. And target mode, which allows you to use your gimbals freely within that circular range. Now that that's covered, let's get back to the mission. Once you're at Hurston, there's no need to spool your quantum again because you're already in nav mode. Just look at your next target and hold mouse 1. If you're going into an asteroid field, take advantage of the scanning ping. By pressing tab, you can reveal asteroids that are hard to see. As you get within about 5k of the mission, you'll see your enemies start to pop up. Press T to target. You can use left alt and T to untarget. Use L for ship lights. You never want to fly straight at your target. Try to keep an eye on the TVI that we talked about earlier. Try either holding a down strafe, a left strafe, or a right strafe, along with W. Then, as you pitch and yaw, you'll orbit around your target. You want to shoot the PIP, or predictive impact point. This is the small circle that's ahead of the ship. This is your ship telling you the most likely place that their ship is going to be by the time your bullets get there. Another style of evasion is spinning your magazine, and while you're recharging, fly past your target to cut off their line of sight of you. By the time you turn around, your magazine should have more ammo and you've denied them doing damage to you. If you get missiled, you can tap H or hold H to release multiple decoys. Tap J to release chaff. If you're in big trouble in PvE or PvP, I'd recommend chaffing and then holding B to switch to nav mode. Your shields will go down, but your chaff will cover you while you're switching to the faster mode. Then, once you're in nav mode, make sure you scroll your speed limiter up. Then just hold Shift and W and you'll be okay most of the time. Once you feel like you have the hang of flying, and if this feels annoying to you, having to scroll up and down for the speed limiter all the time, you can actually turn this off in the settings here. Once your opponents are down, it's mission complete. You'll have one more mission, Bounty Hunter Contract Evaluation. You should get one of these from every planet to get certified. In this case, we're doing it for Hurston. This mission will qualify us to do VLRTs. Once you're qualified, do enough of the VLRTs until you level up. When you do, you're going to get another certification. That's going to move you on to LRTs, low-risk targets. From there, you'll go to medium-rated threats, high-rated threats, very high-rated threats, and finally, extreme-level threats. And you can be making up to 85k per mission on the hardest ones. You can check your rep tab to see how close you are to the next certification. And congratulations, you've made it to the final section. Let's talk about the criminal system. Now it's up to you if you want to work on the side of the law or against it. If you're ever wondering, is the space government watching me right now? Go ahead and look to the top left. You're going to see an icon with an eye. This is monitored space. Criminal activities are going to be recorded, or if you have a bounty, crime stat 3, 4, or 5, you'll be tracked in real time. But again, this is only in monitored space. In unmonitored space, there's no consequences for crime, no instant marker tracking bounties, and most importantly, no witnesses. Each moon or planet is going to have their own comm array. You can hack it to turn it off in the surrounding space around the planet or moon, but you'll need a hacking chip to do it. Keep in mind that big landing zones on planets and space stations have monitored zones that cannot be turned off. We call stations soft arm assist, meaning no FPS combat, but ship combat is allowed. Hard arm assist means no ship or FPS combat at all. These are at landing zones or select outposts around Stanton. You can tell you're in an armistice zone by the symbol in the top left. So we've decided we want to commit a crime by shooting the station. Now this isn't too bad, and I won't even have a bounty at this point. With a crime stat 2 or below, you can quantum away and the station will forget you ever attacked it in just a few minutes. Crime stat 1 and 2 are payable at the admin on stations and inside the hangars at major landing zones. Once you have a CS3, you will get a bounty placed on you. You'll have 2 options to get rid of it. Option 1, grab a hacking chip from this room at Grimhex around Yella. You'll head to SBK Spaceport Korea around Selin, and you'll have to fight your way through an army of NPCs and turrets to clear your crime stat. In my opinion, you have to jump through way too many hoops just to clear your crime stat. It is possible, but it's usually easier just to go to prison. The other option is dying or surrendering, which will get you sent to Klescher, aka Space Prison. But we're not going down without a fight. Now's the perfect time to show off Precision Mode. To activate it, use left alt and right click. T to target the ship in front of you. Precision Mode is bad to dogfight small ships since it slows you down and zooms you in significantly. But it's great for fighting big ships, and it's easy to hit turrets, weapons, and one-day components. There's also no pip in Precision Mode. Just aim where you want your bullets to go and it will do the work for you. Keep in mind, effective against big ships does not mean invincible against big ships. Hello and welcome to Klescher Rehabilitation. If I head out of my bed and into the middle of the room, you can see the console in the middle will tell you how long you have left in prison. Now to get out legally, you need merits. How merits work is 1 merit equals 1 second in prison, so 3,600 equals 1 hour. You could log out and just wait for the timer to run down. Your timer does go down while you're offline. But what if we don't want to log out? So the second thing you can do is head to the work mines. Here you can mine rocks and turn them in just around the corner of Route 1, 2, and 3. The rocks you're looking for are green, Dolvine, which is okay, and Hadanite, which is really good. Keep in mind Hadanite spawns way more often past depth 7. To get mining, tab 5 to pull out your multi-tool. You can mouse 2 to aim and scan the rock, and mouse 1 to activate your laser. You'll slowly increase power by pressing left alt and scroll wheel up. You want to reach the green zone and get out of the white, never going into the red zone. If the red bar fills out, it will probably kill you. Once it breaks apart, take advantage of the procs loot system, or just tap F to pick them up. Last way to legally get out is maintenance missions. In the contract manager, you can pick these up. You run around, follow the signs until you get to your desired depth. Easy enough, you click F to clear the kiosk. These will get you a couple thousand merits depending on how far it is. These are awesome because you can grab them and just do mining on the way. Alright Berks, I'm tired of the goody two-shoes stuff. How do I break out of prison illegally? Well, you can attempt a prison break, but it's not easy. With some practice, you can do it in about 5 minutes. You can get a code from the security office towards the front of the tunnels. And from here, you'll have to do the escape route. I will say escaping is mostly not worth it. A million things can go wrong, but it is a fun challenge to try with friends. So if you're gonna escape, it's better to have a friend pick you up. Just be careful of missiles and turrets. Landing behind cover and driving or hiking to your friend will be your best bet. You're not gonna survive long out here since Aberdeen is really hot. So make sure your friend is here before you leave the tunnel. I won't spoil the rest for you, but if you do try to escape, good luck and follow the blue plants. If you do end up making it, you can hack your crime stat at SBK like I talked about earlier. Congratulations, you have now completed the ultimate Star Citizen Guide. Armed with knowledge on how to survive Stanton, I think the next step should be setting a goal to work towards. Personally, I'd recommend the Drake Cutlass Black. It's technically a medium fighter, but it's a multi-role ship that does about everything. It's got stronger shields than the Titan, more firepower, plenty of room for ground vehicles, and even a turret for a buddy to join you. Not to mention, if you buy an XL1 from Port Trussler, your quantum time will be cut in half. The Cutlass Black is going to be a decent goal of 2.1 million aUEC and can be bought at New Deal at the Lorville Spaceport. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop a comment below or check me out live almost every day answering questions and playing Star Citizen. Thanks for watching, and if you feel like this video helped, make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. Till next time, this is Berks signing off.